As the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 and COVID-19 related deaths continue increasing in the Republic of Cameroon, and government is stepping up measures to contain the coronavirus, persons in confinement are lamenting over poor confinement conditions, and they are calling on the Yaoundé administration to rescue them from the poor conditions in which they are confined in hotels and at the Olimbe low-cost houses come in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. And in the southwest region of Cameroon, Governor Benau Kaliabilai has threatened to arrest and detain parents who send their children to the streets to sell during this period when schools are shut down as a result of the coronavirus pandemic in the country. And out of Cameroon, the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, has called on his fellow compatriots to unite against the common enemy, the COVID-19. The government of the Republic of Cameroon is stepping up measures against the COVID-19. The number of confirmed cases continue increasing in the country. Today, the Republic of Cameroon stands at 223 confirmed cases of the COVID-19, and more than 6 persons have now died of COVID-19 in the Republic of Cameroon, and the government is stepping up its measures. The government has now transferred some of the people who were confined within urban centers in the nation's political capital to local houses in Olimbe on the outskirts of Yaoundé. But the people who have been confined there are complaining and lamenting over poor confinement conditions. Many of them are confined in places that have not been cleaned up, and so they are lamenting over the poor conditions and also the poor quality of food that is being given to them by the government. The Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malachi, was in Limbe today to bring some aid and assistance, of course, to the persons who have been confined there, and the people rejected the food, complaining over the poor quality of the food brought to them by the government of the Republic of Cameroon, and they are calling on the Yaoundé administration to do something fast about the situation. Many of them have abandoned the rooms in which they are supposed to be confined, complaining of poor conditions of the rooms in the Olimbe low-cost houses on the outskirts of Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé. And the COVID-19 is adversely affecting economic activities in the Republic of Cameroon, as the measures taken by governments to prevent the spread of the virus across the country are being implemented at different levels in the town of Douala, notably in the Douala 4 subdivision. The divisional officer has taken more stringent measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19, but traders, notably at the Mabanda markets, are complaining that they are unable to meet up with their activities because of the restrictions imposed by the divisional officer of the Douala 4 subdivision to fight against COVID-19. Immaculate Fogwe reports.
Before now, traders in the Mapanda market could do business from dawn to dusk, but now they have very few hours to go along with their business activities. This follows a decision taken by the mayor of the Douala 4 subdivision, who has gone beyond the measure taken by the government of Cameroon, calling on traders to do business in shifts, that is from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. A decision greatly contested by traders of the Mapanda market.
Madam Sapi for Marché Mabanda. Yesterday, Monday, we not open.
I am a trader here at the Mapanda market. On Monday, we were unable to open our shops, but other markets were allowed to operate. They sent us a communique ordering us not to sell on Monday, and that as from Tuesday, we will be selling in different shifts, that is 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. It is more than us. I don't know if the coronavirus can spread only in the Mapanda market.
With the bag say, mais oje mata change.
Et nous payons les boutiques.
We pay for our shops monthly, same with taxes. We have a family to feed. It's better to leave us to respect the order that was implemented by the minister, that is from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Préfère qu'on laisse comme le ministre a dit.
According to the market supervisor, the measure taken by the mayor is for the good of the population.
But not in any day way people go sell.
It is not every day that these traders will be selling in the market. We have partitioned them in groups. The mayor of Douala 4 subdivision took the decision in order that the rule of social distancing is better respected. If the market is congested, then it can't be fully implemented.
1.5 meter for each order.
Honorable Fanja Gabriel has equally joined to the fight of eradicating COVID-19. He recently donated sanitizing kits comprising of buckets and soap to the population.
I just asked to my population who elect me to try to respect, to implement the 13 measure instructed by the government. And for that, I offer some kits to my people to wash their hands before anything. After anything, they have to wash their hands.
Traders of the Mapanda market are sending a distress call to the government of Cameroon to let them trade within the normal working hours made public by the Prime Minister, Chief Joseph John Gute.
Farmers and business persons in Lum in the Mongo Division littoral region of Cameroon are also lamenting over the adverse effects of government's anti-COVID-19 pandemic measures, and they are saying that the absence of other measures to facilitate the implementation of the government measures is further worsening their already bad situation. Innocent as a report.
With the limping economy of Cameroon in general and that of Lom in particular, in the Mongo division of the littoral region as a consequence of the Anglophone crisis, the coronavirus pandemic, according to many in the agricultural sector and the entrepreneurs, has come to worsen matters. Cameroonians, this businessman in Lom knows, will find it difficult to cope, wishing government provides them with sustainable means, like limit exportation of foods and cash crops, or stop completely exportation of certain farm produce like bananas, so it helps feed the population. Others support this be adopted in order to encourage local consumption with an X on consumption of imported goods.
Dans nos États aujourd'hui, nous dépendons totalement des produits importés.
Importation that has contributed to breakdown of the economy since it has discouraged local production with closure of some created factories, with some no longer functioning effectively, like Semri in Yagua and Medino in the northwest region, and others.
Alors qu'au fond, nous avons la capacité et les ressources nécessaires au Cameroun pour pouvoir développer toute cette industrie.
More and more Cameroonians fume at this government's action, encouraging importation over local production.
On ne mange jamais camerounais. Et au Cameroun, on ne laisse pas aussi la possibilité aux Camerounais de fabriquer et produire leurs propres produits.
Paul Eric Kinge, mayor of Jombe Penja subdivision, says the government in this light has completely failed to promote local production and consumption.
Le gouvernement de la République a échoué, a complètement échoué.
He believes without decentralization powers completely given local authorities, there will exist economic stagnation.
Si on vous transfère des compétences et on ne vous donne pas les moyens, qu'est-ce que vous faites?
He believes it is a complete failure of the regime that needs to revise its policies on encouraging local production.
Tout le monde est d'accord que c'est un échec. Il faut que l'État revoie sa politique d'encouragement de la production locale.
To the mayor, with the existing broken economy and the coming of the COVID-19 pandemic, Cameroonians risk dying of not only the epidemic, but mostly famine.
And after the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon recorded a confirmed case of the COVID-19, the governor, Benau Bilai, has said that all parents who continue sending their children to the streets to sell instead of keeping them back at home will be arrested. He was speaking today in Boya as he and his collaborators step up measures against the COVID-19. Derek Jato has more.
Social distancing seen here as Southwest Governor Bernardo Bilai briefed his collaborators on how to intensify the preventive measures against coronavirus. The first case of coronavirus has been confirmed in his region. No one expected this, and there is only one option now: to keep fighting in order to stop the spread of the virus. Dr. Ebongo Zacchaeus Nanje, Southwest Regional Delegate of Public Health, presented some medical consignment to the Southwest Governor, and at the Buya Regional Hospital, some isolation wards are under construction. Coronavirus is winning all its battles. We need to come together as a family to fight this. Governor Bernardo Bilai called on the Southwest population to see the emergency, and to the media men and women, we need you now more than ever.
We count on you. Today that people can no longer gather more than 50. People cannot meet in big groups in the hall. It is only through the media that we can reach, we can go to the majority of the population.
He also encouraged the use of televisions and radio stations as a medium to teach students and pupils from home.
Appealing for more assistance from you to allow them, with your assistance, put some programs in the air for children not to be completely abandoned during this period. If not, they will forget everything, and when the school will resume next, it will be difficult for them to catch up.
But he will arrest parents who are sending their children to the street or market to buy or sell.
So we say that next time we arrest the parents. We arrest them for bringing children to risky zones where they can be exposed to contamination. So the parents are aware.
We must be mature enough. Coronavirus is real. It is deadly. Let's protect our region and our nation.
And the divisional officer of the Douala 5 subdivision has urged all inhabitants of the municipality to strictly respect all the measures put in place by the government against the COVID-19 and the sanitation rules of the World Health Organization in order to prevent the spread of the virus within the Douala 5 subdivision, the rest of Cameroon's economic capital and the nation at large. From Bele Matthias was speaking while visiting some streets of his municipality today to check the implementation of government and WHO anti-COVID-19 measures. Smanjikan Gabriel.
A commercial bike rider escaping from the divisional officer of Douala 5 subdivision for carrying 2 passengers instead of 1. The divisional officer, accompanied by forces of law and order, was on the field to control and see if the measures taken by the Prime Minister and head of government are being respected by road users in Douala 5 subdivision. At Rompoulin as well as Bonamusa the market, the divisional officer met with bike riders still transporting more than 1 passenger.
The difficulties are that we have some recalcitrant people who do not want to obey it, and we are taking measures to sanction them. We have already sealed many of licenses, many bars, and even motor taxis, and some we have already put them, sent them to the Fourier, and we want to believe that this action is going to reinforce the measures on the field.
Apart from commercial bike riders, even lorries taking more than 2 persons were forced to reduce the number of persons on them. The divisional officer says the law must be strictly respected by all.
It has not been easy, but we have been on the field several times. And the motor taxis are changing their strategies. We are equally changing strategies, our own strategies, to make sure that we execute fully the instructions of the head of state and the Prime Minister, head of government, and Minister of Public Health, and our hierarchy, respective hierarchies. And that is why we are on the field. And you can observe that motor taxis have started adhering to our actions, and we want to tell the people, to inform the people, to tell the population of Douala 5 that they should stay at home to avoid this coronavirus, which is in fact a major issue for now, and respect all the instructions of the hierarchy.
Apart from the control on commercial motorbike riders and vehicles, the divisional officer also sensitized bike riders on the need to wash their hands regularly or sanitize them. The team of the divisional officer continued late in the night to see if the different traveling agencies had also respected the measures of reducing the numbers of passengers. The only difficult zone visited by the divisional officer was at Bepanda Majorité, where people were caught drinking outside with bars closed. Their chairs were carried away by the forces of law and order.
Oh, pardon, excusez-moi.
The divisional officer intends to continue with surprise checks in the Douala 5 subdivision.
The problem of indiscipline is equally experienced in other African countries, including Ghana. And Ghana has already recorded at least 161 confirmed cases of the COVID-19, and of course at least 5 deaths have also been recorded in Ghana. And the Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo has called on all Ghanaians to unite against the common enemy, coronavirus. Take a listen.
United in our determination and efforts to overcome this challenge. This certainly is not the time for politicking or the display of partisanship. The virus does not care which party you belong to. Neither is it, as we have seen, a respecter of persons. The enemy is the virus and not each other. Fellow Ghanaians, with the Bank of Ghana predicting a worst case GDP growth rate scenario of 2.5% for 2020, should the virus continue to linger for the rest of the year, the effects on our economy would be dire. However, as we have demonstrated over the course of the last 3 years, where we inherited an economy that was growing at 3.4% and transformed it into one which has grown by an average of 7% over the last 3 years, I assure you that we know what to do to bring back our economy back to life. What we do not know is how to bring people back to life. We will therefore protect people's lives, then their livelihoods.
Fruit growers in Europe are struggling to survive amid the COVID-19 lockdown being implemented by several European countries, and many of the fruit growers are finding it difficult to carry on with their normal sales activities as a result of the lockdown. Courtesy Hearing News.
They look delicious and ready to be eaten, but nobody is buying them. In times of pandemic, consumers see strawberries as a luxury. The French growers are quite pessimistic about the near future.
Today the real fear is to have to throw strawberries away. The demand, whether in France or abroad, has been non-existent for a week.
The farmers have also another problem to deal with: lack of workers. The COVID-19 led many employees to stay at home in quarantine, but the fruit doesn't wait to be collected. The immediate solution was to hire workers without any experience.
At the start of the week, we took on 20 local people. Pretty surprising that the virus is sending us people who are in need, who were self-employed and have no money.
The lack of farmers is also a major issue in Germany. This asparagus grower in Saxony-Anhalt has his product almost ready to be harvested, but nobody to do it. The pandemic led the government to close the borders, and the usual migrant workers from Eastern Europe that do the job can't get in.
I am sure that we won't find any Germans for the field work cutting asparagus for the minimum wage.
So far, the food supply chain has worked, and the consumers' institutions guarantee there's no need for panic buying. But to keep it like that, these workers ask for some special treatment.
We've been working with the trade unions, organizations in Europe and beyond to make sure that the European Commission is aware of measures that it can take to enable workers to get to work, and that involves things like providing childcare and taking emergency measures such as those that are provided to the medical service.
Measures to ensure that supermarket shelves will keep on having fresh products.
Coming up in the first part of Talking Points, meet our Southwest correspondent Derek Jato and the director of the Boya Regional Hospital.
We are keeping you in the hospital in that specialized unit. And then,
Doctor, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Happy to have you. Doctor, we're talking about coronavirus. Let's remind our viewers of the symptoms of this dreaded coronavirus. What are the symptoms, and what should someone do if he or she notice such symptoms, or notice such symptoms on any other person around him or her?
Thank you very much for this question. The coronavirus is some new form of an already existing family of viruses that have been known in history to cause a lot of harm. The patient may complain of a normal sore throat. We've been having sore throats all through our lives, and it may seem as one of those normal episodes of sore throat. The patient may have some fever, which usually begins by a low-grade fever. The temperature is not too high, hence the patient will not even seek for medical care. Thirdly, you might see after some few days the patient starts developing other aspects of general body pains, joint pains, and the temperature over time may become very, very much worrying.
There's this specialist in microbiology, he's called Francois Xavier. He told Équinoxe Television that in the Northwest and Southwest region, the regions hit by the Anglophone crisis, of course, the additional measure that should be put there should be ceasefire. If not, though the nation is suffering, but those two regions, what will happen there will be much more catastrophic. What do you think about that?
As a technician and as a medic, societal problems affect us, they affect our patients, hence you cannot sleep at night when your patients don't sleep. But the logical question I want to ask is that we are having a common enemy. The whole world is fighting against a common enemy. And that enemy does not carry guns. The enemy doesn't wear uniforms. The enemy does not even manifest in the physical. These are DNA protein molecules that you have to use an aid, a microscope, to see them. Hence, I think that if everybody is thinking about a bigger or the biggest war the whole world is fighting, we should be thinking about the war against COVID-19. Hence, I do not even see the possibility of somebody taking a weapon against another person when there is a bigger weapon pointing at both of us. We should face reality and make sure that in every corner we are, north or south, for everybody that you love or hate, this virus is no respecter of persons, no respecter of uniforms, no respecter of ethnicity, no respecter of the language we speak. And so, as medics, we are calling on every party involved that this is the time when we should put our forces together and fight the enemy we don't see. If not, in fighting ourselves, in fighting our own countrymen, the virus is going to kill us all, and there's going to be no way out. Health purposes, for health reasons, we want to decry this nonchalance in these two regions greatly hit by the crisis. We are disturbed and very disturbed that we have our brothers and our sisters still living in the bushes. The hygienic conditions of those living in the bushes we cannot guarantee. By the time we tell them wash your hands every day, they don't even have drinking water, so they prefer to drink the dirty water they have than to wash their hands with it. If this virus should get to them, then we might be digging mass graves in the bushes. And that is why we as medics would want to say that we need those measures implemented to the fullest to keep those people who cannot even take care of themselves away from this virus. Because we are looking at something worse than the Anglophone crisis at our doorsteps.
Director, can we know the impact of this virus on this hospital and on other patients? Not everybody that comes here, of course, is suspect. We have other cases that are bringing people in this hospital. But the impact on them, the psychological impact, how is it here?
It is a challenging question, and it's a call for concern for our darling patients who come to the hospital seeking aid. And you know, sometimes when people want to come to the hospital, they know exactly that that's where my solution lies. Come to think of it, you are going to the hospital for a toe ache, and yet you face a worse threat in the hospital, where you can get there for a solution and yet you pick up another problem. It is a call for concern for every human being everywhere in the world right now, going to hospitals where you think that you are more exposed, which is true in a hospital because that's where we are supposed to be keeping those patients. And so we at our level are trying to make it easier for them by doing a sophisticated selection at the entry point of the hospital and giving them that confidence that by the time you get in here, you need to take care of yourself by following the rules of the hospital. And then when we get there, when they're in front of the doctor's offices that they need to see, we educate them again, telling them how they should behave within and without the hospital. I think it goes a long way to soothe their pain. However, it's a relevant problem, and that problem we have to deal with.
Another problem is people that seem not to understand what is really going on. I'm talking about parents now. The divisional officer for TICO, I must go back to his recent outing, was on the field and intercepted a lot of kids that have been sent on commercial purposes to generate income for their families. They have now been transformed into hawkers. Director, it is everywhere, even in Buea here. Before coming to your hospital, I saw a couple of them on the street. Yet, they were sent home to be protected. If you have one word to those parents or those who are promoting that, what can you tell them?
The word would just be for them to change. It is not because the school didn't have teachers anymore all around the world, that's why they sent those children home. They sent those children home as a means of confinement. The government cannot start building confinement centers for the whole population to get in. So the best possible way to be psychologically and physically is to be at your home confined. And it makes no sense. It frustrates the efforts of government when you send people home and then the parents send them back to the streets to hawk. What they are hawking, people go there with their hands. Contaminated hands, those may be. Who knows? They go across a lot. So many people, hundreds of people hawking. Some of those people might be infected. Who knows? And hence, it goes on and on and on to put those children in harm's way. It is better those children stay at home than going to hawk on the streets, where they will not only be a danger to wherever they are going to, they will bring back that particular disease home, and that is where trouble is going to be. We cannot be a penny wise and a pound foolish. We need to make sure that we can collectively, as I always say, it's a pandemic, it's a world problem, a global problem, an African problem, a Cameroonian problem, a Southwest region problem. But the solution is definitely hardly going to be gotten at that level. The solution is an individual solution where everybody becomes disciplined enough to respect the rules of hygiene, to respect the 13 proposals and the 13 guidelines given by the government. Once as we are responsible enough to respect those, our individual efforts then put together gives a collective result at the level of Boya, Tico, Fako, Southwest region, Cameroon, Africa, and the world at large.
All right, Director, tell us the atmosphere here vis-a-vis COVID-19. Do you have any suspects? We know about the 2 other suspects that were declared negative. Good news. As we speak, do you have any other suspected case of coronavirus in your hospital?
Consider this a very good joke, but I think we have a lot of suspects because I think any of us can be a suspect. And so at every point in time, we consider the hospital having suspects. This is the proactive nature of the Boya Regional Hospital, to make sure that we do not let anything go. We are not in the business of announcing suspected cases. We are in the business of announcing cases that have been instructions from the Minister of Public Health.
Thanks for your time, Dr. Mukake Martins, Director of the Boya Regional Hospital Annex. You are a consultant surgeon. Thanks for talking to us on Talking Point.
It's our duty to serve the Cameroonian public.
And that's where we do.
Dr. Mukake Martin, Director of the Boya Regional Hospital, speaking there to our Southwest correspondent, Derek Jato, and a second guest in the inside, or rather in Talking Point today, is a safety professional director, national director of the World Safety Organization, Cameroon. Young Clement, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Babila.
You're the regional or the national director of the World Safety Organization for Cameroon.
Exactly. The World Safety Organization, which was established in Cameroon in 2018, and I was assigned as the national director for this organization in Cameroon.
All right, you're welcome. And you have published a series of measures. There are about 8 of them, which, if implemented by Cameroonians, we could succeed as a nation to cast out this common enemy, the COVID-19. Can we come back to these measures? The first one is applying hand sanitizer and washing of hands regularly after using, you made a precision there, after using ATM. Why that precision?
Okay, before I go to that precision, it is good to note that washing hands with soap and clean water is the best option. And then sanitizers, using sanitizer in case we don't have access to water. I was precising for the ATM because most often we do operations daily, and with the adventure of technology, so people get to use the ATM more frequently. So we will get, some people might go to the ATM 2, 3, 4 times a day, and maybe not on the same ATM machine. We have them all over the town, so there is a high risk of getting infected from an ATM machine, because there are a lot of people using it, which you might not know if the person who was there before you was infected, or so that's why I emphasized and precisely the ATM machine.
There are some pictures on social media, and particularly on this ATM, using of the ATM, which are very frightening. Somebody with some sort of the image or the picture of coronavirus on the head, and then it picks out the money and then another person comes, carries out his operation there, and then picks the coronavirus from the machine, and then the person goes with the money and then gives the money to another person, and then the coronavirus continues going.
Yeah, exactly. I've not seen the picture or the video, but I think it is just to sensitize people, just to show them how it can be spread from an ATM machine. So you go, somebody who is infected, has passed through the machine, you come after him. If you didn't wash your hands after using, you get it on your hands. You might not touch your eye, maybe you are free. When you go, you wash your hands, you might be free. But if you had touched somebody else, who after him
transmitted to the person?
Yeah, after taking money from you, maybe scratches his eye or put fingers in the mouth or eat food without washing his hands, he get infected and then passes it to the other person through the different means through which this virus is being transmitted.
And the issue of washing of hands or using hand sanitizer is not only about ATM, but also about all other situations. For example, we are touching this table now, or you're moving up the stairway and you're touching the
handrail,
the bar, the iron bars along, and so on. That should also be applied immediately.
Exactly. It's not only for the ATM machine, but in fact, it should be a habit, especially at this particular moment, to be cleaning the hands most frequently, especially if you move out of the house. You don't know what you might touch something and then maybe later on forget. So that's why cleaning hands, whether you have touched the handrail for the staircase, you have entered, you have shared taxi, you have shared a public bus, you have been to the market. So it's good to wash the hands frequently, as much as possible.
All right, and in the second measure, you said plan what you want to buy and reduce repetitive movements to and from the market. This is going directly to the market women, or the women who are always visiting the markets, but all other persons as well.
Yeah, not only women. We know in our context, we do go to market most often, maybe daily, some twice, some thrice a day. So it's better, in order to reduce of being exposed, to really plan what you want to go and buy, so that when you go to buy, if you have enough money, why not buy maybe for a whole month or for a whole week, in order to avoid going to the market too frequently, and that increases your risk of being exposed to the virus, because the more you get to where people are packed up, the more easier it is for you to get contaminated, because there will be a high chance that somebody who is being infected by the disease is at the market or at the supermarket or any public gathering where you go to. That's why I said it is good for people to really plan what they want to go to buy, so that they shouldn't have to go back to buy again something which they will have done once, and this reduces the rate of them being out there, you know.
What about those who are obtaining the money to buy on daily basis, for example? How would they plan that?
You mean the ladies who...
Those who are obtaining the money, those who have their money to go and buy on daily basis.
I mean those who
don't have money to go and buy much and come and store in the house.
Yeah. That's why I say this period, I think with the way things are moving and the rate at which the infection level is increasing in Cameroon, they will reach a point where the government will even stop that. Okay, no more market, no more this. And then people will have to survive within a period of time for this to go. It will be challenging, but this is efforts that each household will need to take. If you eat just a particular meal for that period of time that will be locked down, I don't think you will really die as compared to getting out frequently. We understand financial challenges, but in terms of safety, I think we can all do efforts to really reduce the rate of going to the market. If you cannot buy for a week or for a month, at least either you can organize in your household. If your neighbor is going to the market, maybe he or she can help you buy some stuff. The next day it's you, just organize like that, so that we don't have too much people going to the market.
All right, you talked about the use of mobile money for Njangi, as it is locally called, or financial transactions, contributions in meetings and all of that. How can that help?
Okay, this basically helps to reduce the rate of hand contacts. Maybe if you are meeting on Jangis every Sunday, you can organize, okay, I'm supposed to give this guy 5,000 or 10,000. Okay, we organize and everybody transfers the money to him. And if there is any necessary things to discuss, there are WhatsApp groups, people can discuss on it. If anybody, if you haven't received your money at a distance, just through communication, this is just to reduce the rate of people coming together and also having contact with other people, because a meeting that is, for example, in let's say Dedo, and somebody who has to leave from Bonanjo or from Bonaberi to come to the meeting venue, he takes a taxi, and inside the taxi he meets different people. He might meet somebody who is infected, he takes it, he comes to the Jangi, distribute to everybody, and everybody from Jangi take it home, distribute to everybody back home, neighbors, and then it's just spreading. So by doing mobile money transfer for meeting operations or other financial operations, I'm not making publicity for the mobile money company, but I think that way we can also help to reduce and eventually eliminate this virus from Cameroon and all of African countries and the world.
This is, however, very difficult and near impossible for those our old mothers who are in the hinterlands, some of our brothers and sisters who do not have access to phones and the facilities that they need, and so on. But it's something that can be applied in urban areas and even in some of the rural areas where the facilities are available.
Yeah, and I think if this is reduced in urban area, it might not reach the interior villages. I talk, for example, like in Lu or in Kambe or in Ekona or in the north. Certain villages that are remote, it might not reach there if we can contain it in the towns.
In the urban centers. Yeah. For now, we have Yaoundé, Douala, Bafoussam, Limbe. These are the towns where some confirmed cases have been recorded. In one of the points you talked about, isolating yourself and seeking medical care if you manifest COVID-19-like symptoms.
Yep. I think the regional director for Boya Hospital, I think he was talking of very good things in that direction, where it becomes difficult because some of the symptoms are similar to some diseases that we already know. And if you suspect either malaria or anything, you should think of the COVID-19 before anything. So you have to isolate from getting into contact with other people, then seek medical attention for a test. And then after that, if it is positive, maybe they quarantine you or take you in charge as they have been doing with the other victims.
All right, in the other measures, you said cook and eat at home, and I'll add drink at home, exercise more while at home, and stick to government preventive measures and the sanitation rules of the World Health Organization. In some few seconds, your comments on the poor confinement quarantine conditions being decried by some Cameroonians who came from abroad and have been quarantined in the Olimbe low-cost houses on the outskirts of Yaoundé.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to quarantine them, but again, there was no plan in crisis management. If not, there will have been adequate places where they can be quarantined. To quarantine someone is not like to just go and put them somewhere and say, okay, you were there when once we discover that you are not manifesting any symptoms of the virus, we will let you go. But they need to also make sure that morally and physically they are apt. And I saw some of your news where all of them were together, and maybe not everybody is contaminated. One might be contaminated, and by putting them all together in such conditions, they expose the other people from getting the infection. So I think it could be due to resources. We can also accept that. But now that they are putting, I think the President of the Republic has put in place some funds, I think they will ameliorate the conditions, and that will help.
All right, thank you very much, Nyong Clement. You are a safety professional and the National Director of the World Safety Organization for Cameroon. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.